Welcome to Power Your Profits podcast, your friendly guide in bringing your business revenue to the next level. Listen as host Susie Carder hears inspiring stories of success from her fellow entrepreneurs and transformational leaders. Prepare to make significant change to your strategies as they unravel the secrets of building multi-million-dollar businesses and the most effective tips on finance, marketing, and sales accountability. If you want to make your first step towards explosive business growth, this is the right podcast for you. Without further ado, here is your host, Susie.
Welcome to Power Your Profit Podcast. I am your host, Susie Carder, and today I have Dr. Gaye Lang. She's the president and founder of Workplace Restorative Practices and has over 50 years of experience. She's a podcast host of Workplace Diversity. While working for the White House as a security regional representative, Dr. Lang honed her leadership skills and relationship building skills. Dr. Lang works to reduce potentials for lawsuits and other negative associated conflict in the workplace. Author and co-author of several books and articles, and an award-winning colorized restorative justice, Voicing Our Reality, Dr. Lang holds her Doctor of Education from University of Houston. Not only is she an amazing badass, she's one of our global leaders and our students. Please welcome Dr. Gaye Lang. Welcome back to another episode of Power Your Profits podcast. I am so excited to have Dr. Gaye here. Dr. Gaye Lang.
Yes, it's me,
That's you. So I gave your official bio, but I want to hear from you, which I always have every guest do. What's your badass list? So let's tell people like the high level, because you've done some amazing things in your career, right? We're going to talk about your business, but let's talk about like all the things you've accomplished. Very accomplished woman of color. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud to have you as my sister in this journey. So share.
Well, I began my teaching career a million years ago, but that being said, climbing up the ladder of success has always been one of the things I did well. And the apex of my career, if I had to put a feather in my hat and plant my flag at the top of the hill, I worked for President George W. Bush. I worked for him under the leadership Rod Page, the first African-American man to be the Secretary of Education in the U.S. I worked as a Secretary's regional representative. I managed 5 states for the U.S. Department of Education: Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, and New Mexico. And in that role, I worked with chief state school officers, which are the people that run the school state system, and governors and lieutenant governors, congresswomen and congressmen. So that was the apex of my educational career. And if I had another flag to land on, it would be working at the state of Texas. I am the statewide director and a senior advisor to the Commissioner of Education before. And that's been an interesting charge, managing everything for the training here in Texas, and most recently restorative justice training or restorative practices for teachers and students and parents. So those are the 2 big lifts. I'm also an award-winning author, Colorizing Restorative Justice, Voicing Our Realities, a journey through my educational experience as an educator till now. I'm also a #1 bestseller on Amazon. The book number is called 7, about 7 African-American women, and that was #1 on Amazon most recently. So those are the big chunks, I guess, if you could say those were the things that I did. Those were nice.
They are nice. As an entrepreneur, right? That's one of our caveats. So understanding what it takes to build a business and understanding all the things that we have to do. But I want to talk about, because your topic, you've been doing it forever, right? But for a lot of people, it's a new buzzword, right? It's, diversity, inclusion, right behind you, diversity, inclusion, equity, tolerance, and training. And I think a lot of people lump it into this one thing. What is it, right? Let's talk about it. Why do we as entrepreneurs need it? Because a lot of entrepreneurs think I don't need it. I'm not big enough yet. Okay, that's cute.
Well, one of the things I think that people do is get training to check the box. Mm-hmm. So I went to a diversity training. They told me what diversity was. Now I know what diversity is. We could check the box and keep moving. Unfortunately, if you have a company of any size and you have any kind of employees, diversity, inclusion, equity, tolerance, and training is huge. It can make or break a company within seconds because lawsuits are reality. Unfortunately, people sue for every little thing. Some things are not even suable. They find a way to sue you for that as well. So to avoid those kinds of things, you get good training that you can implement and actually make cultural changes at the workplace, not just checking the box. Some of the things that happen when people take the check the box training, they become a little bit lax, I guess, or like a daisical about, oh, well, I took it in. If I just say this, nobody will, if I say a slur or I say something that's offensive, nobody's going to say anything because we all had the training. But there's somebody sitting there feeling that 100%. And they may be festering that, and over time fester a little bit more. And that ends up being a conflict now at work that wasn't there before. So the training matters, definitely does. And when you talk about inclusion, it's okay, Susie, if you invite me into your home, but I never get to sit at the table with you, am I included? That becomes the question. So you could hire a bunch of diverse people, but are they at the table? And when I say at the table, that's the decision-making table. Are they in leadership roles? Are they in management roles? Where are they in your space? And are you being inclusive when you talk about what's going on in the workplace? Do they have a voice at the table at all? Even if they're not there personally, is there someone that's representative of that group? Then you think about equity. You know, the little picture you see with the little kids, with the looking over the fence, and they all have cartons or boxes underneath their feet, and everybody's on there. Well, at the very last one, the little boy can't see over the fence because he only has one box. But that's equality. Everybody has a box that is equal. Equity means you give me the number of boxes I need to see over the fence. He needed 2 boxes. So his equity was 2. Somebody else didn't need any, and somebody else needed 1. Equity looks like that. That is my best example for equity. And I think when you see that in the workplace, that means not only you're helping me to grow as a person and become a leader in the workplace, you're nurturing me along the way. Whether I become the top dog or not, it doesn't matter. I'm having opportunities to be trained to have a promotion, to become a leader in the building. And when you think about tolerance, tolerance is a very interesting topic because the new buzzword, we used to call it tolerance, is anti-racism now. But people have a hard time swallowing that word. So I keep it as tolerance. So tolerance could look different for different things and for different reasons. Different people in the organization may need different means or ways to tolerate their ability to do something or to be somewhere. If I'm a Muslim, on Fridays, I have to go to the mosque, but instead of going to the mosque, I need to pray between 11 and 12. Why would you schedule all of the meetings on Friday between 11 and 12? Right. Be tolerant of the fact that I may need that space sometimes, maybe not all the time, but sometimes.
Right.
And of course, training is the biggie, because if you can get training in all of those areas, it cuts down a whole lot of problems, reduces lawsuits. You can increase profitability actually by training because people now know what to do, when to do, and why to do it. And diversity, inclusiveness, and all those things builds your reputation, builds your profit, builds your bottom line as a business. Because the more diverse you can get, Susie, the more creativity comes.
Yes. Well, I think I want to talk about the elephant in the room because most people won't ask this or say this, right? Because they're nervous. And what I find is Caucasian people or people that are not of any other ethnicity but vanilla white, right? It's like, well, I don't want to say anything because I don't want to offend Dr. Gaye, or I don't want to say anything because, you know, it's almost been flipped that if I say something, then I am racist, or if I say something, but I think there's intent behind it. So how does a leader, because there's a lot of people who are leaders that don't want to deal with it, they're putting their head in the sand, and as you said, it's never, when you have a company and you start hiring people, that's when, because you're dealing with customers, and customers are sensitive. We all have a sensitive ear right now. So how would I start as an entrepreneur, and how do I handle it if I'm not of that ethnic background?
So is this for hiring someone? Is it for speaking to someone?
Managing someone? You look at our workplace, we've got clients that are a diverse background, right? I learned this the hard way because we had a marketing company, and in the marketing company, all our marketing just had white people on it. And thank God my industry was loving. They said, Susie, we're all not white. We need to see some women of color. I need you, like, come on, wake up. And I was like, oh my gosh, I am so sorry. But I didn't see it because my eyes were just looking, oh, it's beautiful. Oh, that's great. And my clients raised their hand and said, hello, McFly, wake up, which I thought was amazing, right? I didn't take offense to it. I took it as, you're absolutely right. I apologize. Let me fix it. And then they really helped me bring more inclusion into my company. But just by being that voice, they became really our focus group to go, does this work? Does this not work? How should we do it? So we ended up actually creating two brands, right? From the marketing standpoint. So if we were going to use people, it was either really diverse because some salons and spas were only ethnic. So they didn't want white people on their flyer. They're like, so this doesn't make sense. Because I was trying to include everybody. And they're like, this makes no sense. Like, okay, sorry. But not everybody's gracious as my clients were with me. I think because I was humble enough to just go, oops, sorry. I will definitely change that today. So,
Well, when you think
how do
about,
we handle it, right?
yeah, you handled it quite well, actually, because you were honest, you were open, you were willing to listen. And those are key points. If you ask the question, be willing to listen to the information and don't just say, well, I heard you, but I'm going to do something different. You heard them and changed what you were doing.
Right.
That matters. So I'm just not talking in the wind. I'm literally speaking to you from my heart and you heard it. Yeah. So that was important. So when you think about the clientele that you serve, you want to be for sure inclusive in your thinking when you're doing marketing. And your marketing, whoever the clients are, and you should have clients across the board because people have money. Every group has money. Everybody wants to spend some. You want some of it, you're going to have to cater to me. You have to show me how you think I look in your business. How are you going to serve me as a client? And I think that it starts with that. So when you put a marketing out there like you did and branding, you need to be inclusive in that. When you get them hired and they're ready to work, make sure you are inclusive when you think about what they're doing. If you have an idea that's coming and you have a group of people that's coming up with a think tank, include some of them in the think tank. It doesn't mean that their ideas are going to be the only ideas. It's a part of the thinking and brainstorming process that you allow them in. You might find that they can give you an angle that you did not have before. Sometimes you overlook that because you think, oh, well, they haven't had that experience. Maybe they have had it and you don't know it. Or if they haven't had it, they can bring your eyes to another place and say, look at this, you forgot this. So that's important. So that whole inclusion, bring them to the table. When you hire, to look for them in the right places. If you go to Indeed, they're there, but they're going to be buried at the bottom of those resumes. Any one of those big old mills that you can go through, they're going to be buried. They will never get to the top. They'll be among thousands. The places you go are where they live, work, and play, such as the Hispanic Chambers of Commerce, Black Chambers of Commerce, Latino Unite. All these places, all these groups, all these ethnic groups, racially diverse groups have chambers of commerce. They also have quote unquote business connections. They have their own networking system. And there's a way to break in it through the chambers, of course. The other thing you want to look at is universities and college that produces minority leaders. African American, historically Black colleges in certain locales like San Antonio, Texas, where I live. You have a lot of minorities that are living in, Hispanics that live in San Antonio and in El Paso and in Corpus Christi. So if I wanted to market and find my ideal client that was Hispanic or of a Latino descent, those are the places I would go. And every city has their own culture like that. So you have to go where they are if you want to recruit them into your space and bring them to where you are versus going to Indeed, because they'll be there. They'll just be at the bottom of the barrel.
Right. So when should we hire someone like you, Dr. Gaye? When should we go, okay, when do we bring someone in? I always look at, let me find an expert that can really speak the language. Because again, my ignorance isn't bliss, right? Especially the more employees that you have. Because you said, I've been sued many times for innocence, right? Me just not knowing. But I don't care. The employment board, IRS, nobody cares you didn't know. That's what I've learned. They don't care if you don't know, you're going to be sued, right? It's like, oh, but my intention was pure. No.
They don't care.
No, it doesn't matter. So when should a company hire you? Like someone like you? I say you, but somebody like you.
Anybody like this would be great, but hopefully it's me. So one of the things I try to tell companies is this: the minute you get enough employees that are not family, that are not close friends, that you haven't known forever, you need a me.
Yeah.
You need somebody to start helping you look through what you're doing and how you're doing it. So let's just say it's just you and your husband started a business. Everything's going well. Well, your little niece came to work for you, so that's okay. Now you have hired a friend of yours. Friends sue friends, by the way. The same people you buddy with, they might sue you. So whomever you get that is not in your friendship or family circle, particularly family, I would start thinking about hiring someone to at least do some basic training, because now you have to deal with John Q. Public differently. Mm-hmm. It's not just you and your husband dealing with it where y'all could talk it out, duke it out, fix it out. Nobody's going to fix it when your employees does it. They're not going to fix it very well if you do it either, but you have more of an opportunity to fix your own mess than if somebody else makes it. Because once they make it, they're going to sue the company and everybody else in it if they can. So you want to make sure that you get it in early enough that you get the training in. And as a mom and pop operation, if you wanted to at least do what I call a cursory look to see if you, as a small business owner, are doing the right thing. How can you get more diverse clients, and are you treating the clients well? And I can tell you a quick experience. I guess it's a boutique. I'll call it a boutique, but it's a lady that owns a boutique, and she's a Caucasian. And so I would go there every now and then just to, browse. So I went recently about, I guess 6-7 months ago. I finally got tired of sitting in the house with COVID. So I went to her shop. It's not too far. And so when I came in, I didn't dress up because I was just leaving the house. I just had on my little jog suit. I didn't look terrible, but I wasn't dressed up like this. And so she said, well, welcome in. I said, thank you so much. She said, are you looking for anything? No, the same little thing. So I got to the counter and I saw this necklace. I said, oh, I really like that. I said, I think I might try to get that. So she said, well, this is expensive. I said, is it? She said, yeah, this is real diamond and this is a real jade in here and da-da-da. I said, very good. I said, how much is it? I said, okay, good. I said, well, I would buy it, but I don't think I'm going to buy it today. And I'm going to tell you why. You assumed I couldn't afford it. My name is Dr. Gaye Lang. I don't play games. When I want to buy something, I could afford it. If I can't afford it, I don't even look at it.
Right.
I wouldn't have mentioned it to you. So don't assume just because I'm a woman of color and I'm not dressed up with lipsticks and pearls and whatever else, you made a bad assumption. And she said, well, I didn't mean it like that. I said, I'm sure you didn't, but that's the way I took it.
Ignorance is not bliss. I think, boy, Dr. Gaye has an air about her. I can just, she has that mama look like, don't mess with me. I would have never said anything.
It looks like people should know that. Yeah. But they don't know it until it's like, woo. I'm sure she didn't mean anything by it either. Right. But I guess African Americans don't come in her shop that much. And maybe she feels she's a high-end shop. I don't know. But the fact of the matter is I was just browsing because I left the house. I was tired of sitting in here. I might have bought it, Right. I liked it, but I didn't have to buy it. But after she said that, I said, you know what? I don't have to buy it. I don't have to have it.
I think coming from, a Caucasian community into a diverse community, it's happened to me in the reverse, but it's also happened just the way I grew up. My dad was very racist. So I grew up with a lot of racial slur that was just language. And it wasn't until I worked in this store that I was the only white person in the store. Everybody else was people of color, right? In all colors. I was just happened to be the white person. And so realizing stuff that flew out of my mouth, but what I was raised with, I didn't even know it was racial slur or it had racial connotation to it. And so it was really hard for me as a young woman to go, oh, this is how we grew up. These were the things that we said, and so I think that's where I look at, especially in our environment and as a business owner, it's one of the things we have to be responsible for is to know, educate yourself, find Dr. Gaye, really look at what policy and procedures do we need to put in place to protect ourselves, to protect our team members, from clients. I've had clients who have said racial slurs to Lisa. Most people know I work with Lisa Nichols for years, and I would be flabbergasted how she would be treated by service people, I wanted to fight for her. And she's like, girl, it's not worth it. And I'm like, no, it is worth it. It's unacceptable. And if we don't say anything, then the behavior can continue. I love that you said that, because her behavior can't continue. She'll now question that, like, am I being rude? Because part of it's rudeness, right? Versus whatever. I mean, I learned that in retail years ago. You never know who has money in their paper bag. They might have a paper bag, but they're pulling out a wad of money, right? So, you don't know that till you know that. But I think, what's a way that we can start? You gave us some great stuff, right? By going out and networking, going to the chambers, right? Looking in the right place, thinking about, how do I be more inclusive? What would you say are some simple, doable things? So I would say that once you're at that $1 million mark, you'll have anywhere between 6 and 30 employees. Like, you got to really start managing that now.
Oh, yes, you do.
And so there has to be a training budget, whether you do it on Zoom, whether you hire someone on Zoom, whether you have someone come into your business, or whether you just have someone like a Dr. Gaye consulting you to go look at my policy and procedures. Look, am I doing this right? Does this look good? Because you can look at something for 10 minutes and go, oh, you are a violation. You are a walking violation, Susie. And that's what we need. We need someone that you have how many years doing this?
This is my 50th year as an educator, and I have been doing training for 40 of those years.
Right. So this
I'm
is
a trainer.
In your sleep stuff to go, this is what you need to do. So what are the simple, doable things?
The older you get and the more you've done something, it seems easier to me, because all those 40 years was learning curves. The last 20 have been perfection. The first 20 was fumble, dumble, all trouble. I was like, oh my God, what do I do next? But 20 years of excellence, working toward excellence in diversity, inclusion, equity, tolerance, training people to think differently about others, being tolerant of the fact that this person may be different than you, but it doesn't make them bad. It makes them a different person. But our differences is what makes us strong. That is the big key. And people cannot see that because they're too busy finding out what's different. What's different is the strength.
Exactly. Like my client saying, hello, like, how much money did I lose in the past because I just didn't know, right? Because someone's not going to say something, right? To go, oh, they don't get me, right? We all hear it, but what does that mean? Mm-hmm. So when I look at a company and the corporation, what are the simple, doable things we can implement before we bring somebody like you on?
Well, you can look at your hiring practices. How do you hire someone to come to work for your company? So if you have a position that is open, let's just say it's a secretarial position or administrative position or a coaching position or a sales position. When you hire that person, are you the only one interviewing? Do you have an interview team? Does the team look like and represent what you want your company to represent? If you're the only person on the team and you want a diverse company or diverse look, have some diversity on the team. If you don't have current diversity on the team, be honest enough in the interviewing process and say, I really want to be better in doing my business and being more diverse in my thinking about how I work in this business. So you could diversify yourself just by the way you start thinking about who you're hiring. Because if you want your business to grow, and business have to grow, they're not going to sit stagnant. If they do, you're not going to be in business very long. How is it I want my business to look? What do I want my business to say to the world? So when I interview, I'm looking for people who are quality, no matter what their color is. No matter what color you are, I want quality. Number two, if I want diversity, I want to bring a person that's diverse, that is accepting of others as well. You can't bring a person in that figure, well, I'm the African American, I'm the Latino, y'all need to cater to me. It's not about that. This is about a give and take. You get to know me, I get to know you. You tell me your likes and dislikes, I tell you mine. We try to make sure we work together and build a relationship so that we don't have conflict. But you keep dragging the conflict in if you don't bring about in the interview process, what does that look like? And one of my favorite interview questions to ask is, what is your position or how do you feel about diversity in the workplace? What is it you think about that? Is it a good, bad, like, don't like? Have you had that experience? Whatever you want to say about it, it's all good. I just want to hear what you have to say in that little question. You can tell a lot about a person just from that, because they'll either have experience with it, understand what you're talking about, or they'll start making stuff up, and you can tell when they're making it up.
That's what I always say. Give them the example. Give me an example of, right? Because they start making it up and you're like, next.
I know, because if you're the interviewee and you know it yourself, or you've studied it yourself, or you know what you're looking for, you know what you don't want for sure.
Right.
So the minute they start making up something, it's like red flag, next.
Right. So share with me, like, what was like the biggest failure you see a company experience because of them not implementing workplace diversity? I know we worked on this a little bit, looking at, what does a lawsuit cost?
Yeah.
Just what's the biggest thing that you saw that was like so obvious to you, because this is your expertise, but to them, which either cost them millions or cost them team or cost them something? What would that be?
Well, one of the things that I looked at in the research, and you and I did that research as well, and I read some astonishing things. One of them was just such a simple thing, but it cost lots of money. So here's what happened. There was a position that was open and two people applied for it. Both of them were qualified for the position. One was African American and one was European American. And the European American told the African American person, I'm applying for that job too. Everybody says I'm applying for a job too. That's not a big deal. So after the interviews were over, the European American went to the African American person and said, so do you know if you're going to get the job? He said, well, I don't know if I'm going to get it or not, but at least I try. He said, yeah, well, I probably will get the job because they're looking for somebody that has these skills. In other words, he told the African American, you don't have the skills. In essence, I've got the skills. You're not going to get it because I don't think you have the skills. Whether you know this person's skills or not, you're telling them that. So how do you get off telling somebody who applied for the same job that you applied for that they don't have the skills?
Right.
Of course, that went back to personnel. And the personnel director said, well, we never said that about you, Mr. So-and-so, and we feel so bad that happened. We're not sure. Well, guess what? Who got the job? The European American. He did get the job. Mm-hmm. So the African American sued because they set him up for failure. They made him think he was even had an equal opportunity to get that job. He didn't. And that other guy could have actually gotten it because he was the best candidate, but he opened his mouth, said the wrong thing. It put the company in jeopardy. The person sued. I mean, whether they wanted it or not wasn't the point. The stress of having to go through a lawsuit, your credibility is out there. And now he tells everybody that story, I'm sure.
Right.
And the other guy could have been better, Susie. We don't know that. But you don't go around after you do an interview and tell the other candidate you're not going to make it. And then you actually end up with a job. It's like, okay, what happened there?
Right. It was insider trading.
Yeah, kind of like that. That's what
it feels like, right?
Yeah.
Just intimidation.
And one lawsuit is $250,000 to a business, just one. $250,000 of lawyer fees, paying back employee income is lost. You have a lot going with just one lawsuit, $250,000.
Right. People don't look at that. I think I always look at that only because I've been sued as a business owner before. I'm really sensitive to what am I doing? How am I doing? How am I tracking? Because in the olden days, in my first businesses, I didn't think I was a big enough business. Right. I'm like, we're only doing $1 million. What is that? Right. That's still a really small business. But in the scheme of things, a lot
of money. If somebody sues you against that million, it's not $1 million anymore. They're knocking that $1 million down quick. Yes.
And that, and that's not, it's all relative to go. It was a lot of money for us. And to them, it was like, wow, they're rich, So I think it's important to go, what are those things, especially in the current marketplace, to go, our industry, the world is giving us a wake-up call. We have to heed to that and go, what are the experts I need in my corner, right? And if you can't, if you don't have someone, get a board, right? A board of advisors, get some mentors, go to the African American Chamber of Commerce, go to the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce to find people who are willing to do some training, talk to Dr. Gaye to go, what are the things I need in place, right? What do you see as the most difficult part of implementing diversity inclusion?
The honest truth, you have to be willing to do it, Susie. The thing of it is, people say they want to do that. The one thing they say they wanted to do, they really don't want to. What they want to do is you to come in, train them, let them know what it is, check the box, and move on. There won't be an implementation. There is no follow-up. There's no monitoring. I like to train you, mentor you, coach you, monitor you to success. Because you don't have, when you pay for something, you should get everything that you can possibly get out of the situation.
One training is not going to change a lifetime of training, right? It's only going to give me a wake-up call.
That's it. So
I literally went to, when we sold our company, all the mucky mucks came in, the big lawyers came in, and we had a sexual harassment training. I used to be a walking violation.
Oh my God.
Dr. Gaye. And so they were talking about inappropriate touching, inappropriate language. Well, I've worked with these people
all your life.
10 years, right? And that we kind of grew up in the business together. And Julie Shepperly, who was my director of education, right? She walks in, she grabs my boobs, and I grab her butt right after this training. And the lawyer looks at me and says, "Really, Susie?" And I'm like, oh my gosh. They're like, they're just nodding their head at me. But that was, you can't do that anymore.
Life has changed dramatically from that. And the industry you're in has changed.
Yes, but what I'm saying is, 10 years of a way of culture is you're not going to change it with one training. That was such a perfect example. And then he said, we're doing some more training, which was, okay, sorry. Like, I was like, oh my God. We're just a huggy touchy. You guys are looking at me.
Yeah, but that's because you knew her well.
Yes, and
if you didn't know her well, you couldn't do that. But people on the outside looking in can't believe that that's happened. So, oh my God, look at that. You could do it, but you have to do that in a private way, not in a public way, because if the public sees that, an assumption is made about you and your company.
Yes, right. Now that was in my youth, right? I didn't know any better.
Right? You got to do better now because you know.
Right. And I'm a tough nut, right? So I've got to sit at your feet for a long time to go, let me shift this. And especially if it's not in your DNA or your culture. Right. I mean, I've worked with Lisa for 20 years. It's in my DNA and culture to be respectful, to be inclusive, to watch what I say, to be responsible for my tribe and my community. And, but I look at other people that's not their culture. And to go,
no, it's not.
We've got to, when I'm looking at candidates, I'm looking at what do we need next, right? What skill set? Am I diverse? Am I not diverse? Is our marketing diverse? Is it not diverse? And that takes consciousness, and it takes, clients like you to help implement that.
One of the things I want to suggest to you and anyone, if you want to know your own thermometer about yourself, how you're doing, go to the Harvard Implicit Bias Test. There's a bias test on everything under the sun that Harvard has created over there with another partnership. So when you take the test, let me assure you, do not put this on a work computer. Go to your house and take this test because they're going to send you the results. You may be surprised to find out what kind of person you are culturally and where you swinging it with, where's what you're leaning to, right, left, or in the middle. You always want to hang around the center, of course. The first time I took it, I was biased against African Americans. I said, it's got to be wrong. I said, let me go do this again. Did it again? Oh yeah, I'm biased against African Americans. I had to put myself in check and say, and why would that be? I can't be. This is not correct. So when I took it the second time, I actually analyzed me. What is it about me that puts that out there that way? I had to look at myself hard. Here's what I found out. One, I was passing judgment on African Americans based on Dr. Gaye Lang standard. I got the standard book and nobody else has the book but me. So I'm basing all my stuff on my own standards. That was the first thing. Second, I am in the 70s. I'm a 70-year-old woman. So I was born when you could not speak back to your parents, when you could not do anything like these children do today. They get away with murder. They literally do. My parents would not have allowed that, period. So my standard of discipline and respect for adults was way different. The final piece, whether we know it or not, television does impact our thinking.
Yeah.
Whether we believe that or not, garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah.
So those three factors led me to the place where I was slightly, not overly, but slightly biased against my own people. So a year later, I take it again because my ego couldn't stand it. It was like, no, this is not happening. So I take it again. When I took it again, I was in the place I felt I should have been the first time.
Yes.
So that shows you, even as a person of color, African American, who was brought up harsh in a way that these kids would think was just terrible, I didn't have a problem with it because it was self-discipline. We taught ourselves to be disciplined and respectful and mindful of it. So I could not judge other people based on my own upbringing, my own standards, and my own perspective. I don't have a right to do it. Nobody stopped and said, Gaye Lang, you're in charge of all the Black people. Nobody gave me that authority. So since they didn't give it to me, I'm gonna have to let that go and understand people have a right to do what they need to do and not judge them for what they're doing because I don't know them. I haven't walked a mile in their shoes. Who am I to pass judgment? Nobody. So that's the test. When you take it, don't get embarrassed. Don't be shocked. Don't say, oh my God, none of that. It might find that you're a racist. Who knows? Might find out that something else is happening. Who knows? But the one good thing, once you know something is happening, you can do something about it. It took me a year to do something about my perspective.
Well, how do you have insight to go, wait, why would I think that way? Where would that be coming from? Like this is me. This is my people, right? To go.
It took me a minute to feel that too. I was like, what? No. And I laughed because my younger great nieces and nephews, they hated to visit me in the summertime because I was always preaching, you have to get a good education because you're not rich. You're not rich. You gotta go to school. If you don't go to school, we'll go to vocational school. You don't go to vocation, you find a trade. You got to make it. Right. I made it. And I always tell them, I said, you all have it so much easier. We couldn't even do some of these things in school. We couldn't even go to that college. We couldn't even step on that campus. What are you talking about? You have to make it. Your life is so much better, so much easier than mine. But I still didn't walk a mile in that person's shoes.
Right.
I don't care if they're related to you or not. Nobody died and left me in charge of Black people. Nobody.
I love that saying. Nobody died, left me in charge of Black people. So if you could be remembered for one thing, Dr. Gaye, what would it be?
Authenticity. What you see is exactly what you get. I don't put on a lot of airs. I don't pretend I'm smarter than anybody, better than anybody, wiser than anybody, but I will work with anybody to make their lives better if I can, and my own. I think that the richness of life comes from being your truest self. I can't be like Susie and be Susie's personality. I can be my best self is me, not a replica or a duplicate or a carbon copy of somebody else. So authenticity is big for me. What you see is what you get, and I'm a genuine person. I'm not wishy-washy or anything.
You're not. You are consistent. You are who you are. I've known you for several years, and I will definitely attest to that. I want you to reach out to Dr. Gaye. So where can we find you? Let's give them your contact information. It will be in the show notes, but share where we can find you on social, where we can find you on your website.
You can find me at www.workplacerestorativepracticesinc.com, where you can receive a free download of 3 ways to avoid a potential lawsuit. You can also find me on Facebook, Workplace Diversity with Dr. Gaye Lang. You can also find me on my podcast, Workplace Diversity, Your Workplace Diet, Diversity, Inclusion, Equity, Tolerance, and Training. And on LinkedIn, Workplace Restorative Practices, Inc. with Dr. Gaye Lang.
So I invite you, before you need Dr. Gaye, don't do what I did and before I sought out the people that I needed to put the practices in place. Research and look at how do we tame the beast so that you're managing your business with integrity, with diversity, inclusion, equity, tolerance, right? It takes 1 minute to reach out to Gaye, Dr. Gaye, to make that happen. So check out her books on Amazon.com. If you search her name, Dr. Gaye, or Gaye, Gayelang, you can find all her books. We've got 4 of them listed there that you can take advantage of. So again, you're in business for yourself, not by yourself. We're here. We're your partners in the journey. I'm Susie Carder and Dr. Lang joining us for another fabulous episode. Please like, share, and follow for more juicy content. And if you know someone that needs this conversation, please forward this podcast to other people so that we can together make the world a better place. Dr. Gaye, thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Susie.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Power Your Profits podcast. Let these building blocks from today's most successful industry leaders equip you with the necessary resources and tools to finally establish the highly profitable business of your dreams. Want to hear more? Listen to more episodes at https://poweryourprofitspodcast.com. And don't forget to subscribe to the show. Now is your time to rise to the top of your game, so be sure to catch our next episode. Until next time.